Yes, so I have the fastest people on earth with us today, Josh Kerr. Josh, I'm going to read a bit of what Wikipedia says about you, if that's
Oh
okay.
no, no. Yeah, of course you can.
um, so that people get to know you a little bit more, and then please add and modify. Okay. So Josh Kerr is a Scottish middle distance runner who competes primarily in the 1500 meters. He won a gold medal in the event at the 2023 World Championships, a bronze medal at the 2020 Summer Olympics, and a gold medal at the 2015 European Junior Championships. You hold the European record in the indoor mile with a time of 3 minutes 48 seconds. And that is so impressive, my friend. And it's such a pleasure to know you. Would you add anything to that or modify that?
No, I think to be fair, Wikipedia is pretty bang on with that one. I don't know who edits these, but no, they do a good job. No, I think for me, from the running perspective, that's always been how I've defined myself over the past 10 to 12 years. I came out to the United States to become a professional runner. I did that through going to University of New Mexico as a collegiate athlete for 3 years, finished off my degrees there, and signed with the Brooks Beast, which is a running track club with kind of a setup with coaching staff and teammates and like physios and all these things that just allow me to do my job. So sometimes people don't fully understand running as like a full-time job, or like it's not as obviously big as American football or basketball, NBA, any of that stuff, but it's an individual sport, but we like to stick as teams. So I run for the shoe brand Brooks, and that kind of fuels me to yeah, get through the year and try and run as fast as possible, really.
That's awesome. How does it feel to have that title? One of the fastest people in the world in the history of humanity. You've got
Yeah.
yourself there.
Yeah, it's difficult to break down. I think when people hear that, they disconnect from someone like that. They disconnect of like, oh, that's not possible. Oh, and in the same way I would have disconnected from that early in my career also. It's like there's so many steps it takes to get to that point where I can define myself as one of the fastest people in the world. And yeah, I think what you can learn from that is it's just small steps. I've been in the sport since I was 9, and I always wanted to be one of the fastest guys in the world. And it just took, yeah, it took me from, yeah, when I was 9 to it took me until I was 26 to become world champion. So, or 25. And hopefully I can stay here for as long as possible. But put my body through quite a lot thus far. So it feels like a long journey to get here, but once I'm here, it's really nice to, yeah, just look back on all the work that's taken me to get to this position, and yeah, get to have awesome conversations with some very cool people, of other high achievers and other people that want to excel in their field, and just people who are dreamers really, and that are just looking for insight of people who have achieved something that they've always wanted to achieve.
Yeah. And how did that start for you? You said so age 9. That's a pretty young age to want something so big. How did that start for you?
For me, it was my dad was a professional rugby player, and that I wanted to follow in those footsteps. And I was doing all the extra stuff. Sport is outside the classroom is where I excelled, and it's really fun to see. So my fiance, who is just become a resident dermatologist, it's very fun to see the different sides of like we were doing the exact same journey, just in kind of slightly different ways. Where she excelled in the classroom, she also excelled athletically, but that was where her focus was, and my focus is very much in athletics. And it's just really cool to see. It's just the same work ethic, just in slightly different areas. And so for me, yeah, like I want to be a rugby player. I used running and a summer running camp when I was about 8 years old to get myself fit for rugby season. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. I think there's a freedom with running. There's a mental health benefit of running. And there's also this individual aspect where if things go well, it's because you've done the right work and you've smashed it on the day. If it goes badly, you take responsibility for things that go badly. And I love not having to rely on other people for performance from the team aspect. But I love the team aspect of sport. And so it is a good balance between like I have teammates that we train together every day, we race together sometimes, but it doesn't really rely on each other when it comes to performances. So that's kind of I fell into it that way. And I was like, to make money and to do this as a full-time sport, I have to go through these steps, and that's to go through these championships and go through the experiences and things, and work through that. But yeah, it's been a long journey thus far, but hopefully a further one, and a very much more fun one on this side of things. Yeah.
And it's kind of wild to think about because I'm obviously on your fiance's side. We've met her because, we're involved with the medical school here. So it's very interesting being a physician that you're talking about. Like the focus and the comfort zone for me, for example, is in the academics, is in using my brain all the time in a very internal way. And what is lacking for me, and I try to get more into, is that physical embodiment of life and pushing myself in that way, which was not much encouraged as a child, especially in a terrorist regime in Iran, when women were so oppressed and the entire society is extremely oppressed. So that's where I grew up, and I'm sure it was very empowering not to only watch your dad as a professional rugby player, but also you were empowered to be on this path as well, which is very interesting how our upbringing affects us and
Yeah, influences
creates
us for
patterns.
sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. And are your parents still in Scotland?
Yeah, yeah, my whole family still lives over there. So that's kind of a big sacrifice that I'm taking right now is being over in the States. And I knew as soon as I came over here, I was like, this is where this country I think is a great place for if you're willing to put the work in, the opportunities are going to be there. And I think every country has their ups and their downs. And I think what this country has is something that I need, and that's being able to do my job at the best of my ability, and that allows me to have the resources that I have to do my job properly. And I think I owe the US a lot for that. But I am Scottish. I'm always going to be. I grew up there until I was 17. I moved over here in 2015, and I'll always define myself as Scottish. But I do owe this country quite a lot. I give it a lot of shit, but it's done a lot for me. But that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the way it always is. And yeah, so my whole family's over there. So I'll try and get that back there about 4 or 5 times a year because I have to go back and race there quite a lot too.
Is that right? Okay. And I'm very curious. So you said at 17 you moved to the US. Did you move by yourself? Tell us about that. That is like what 17, we have a 15-year-old at home, and I cannot imagine, can imagine like an exchange program, but to be like, you know what, I'm on this path and I'm gonna go get it in a different country. Tell us.
Yeah, I think everyone in my family had different, not opinions on it, but they came at it from a different way. So for me, I knew that coming to the US to go to university was going to be the right step for me to be a professional runner, and that's always what I felt like that was going to be my path. And I'd shown the results that it was possible to make that next step. So found a university, and I knew because I was young for my year, so I finished school, but I was getting recruited at 16, so it was difficult to get the interest of schools that were trying to gather these people at 18, which is a big difference in our sport, a couple of years. So my mom was like a little bit more apprehensive of like, this seems kind of crazy. And my dad was more, well, I guess both of them were a bit more of like, we're going to make you do all this research. We're going to make you do all these emails. And they helped out now and again, but it's like it was self-driven so that when things got tough over in the US, especially when, you're young, you go through the first couple of years of college, that I'm gonna stick it out and I'm gonna stick to what my plan was because I made the decision versus them being like, maybe do this or maybe do that. So it was very self-driven with the right guidance. And so I think that makes a big difference. And yeah, they had to come over. I was too young to sign my own release form, so they had to fly over with me. Super embarrassing. Really not the coolest thing you can do when you walk onto a university campus is bring your parents. But so they came over for a week or so just to make sure that the place I picked was not crazy. And then they realized it was kind of crazy. And they were like, well, they did a big tour of the university campus. They were like, this is wonderful. This is amazing. And no, they love Albuquerque. They come out here a lot. But I think initially, like getting hit by Albuquerque's airport and coming from Edinburgh, like, it's a main city. We're city people, and it was just a whole different culture shock. And so I think my mom was definitely apprehensive, but they knew that I was in the right place. And once they met the staff and saw the facilities and the team and stuff, they were like, you'll be all right. So then they left me. But I do, yeah, I think from their perspective, it was definitely tough, and having to leave the first time was tough. But I was just loving it. I kind of forgot I had to go to classes for university. I was like, I'm really excited for the running side of things. And the University of New Mexico for their sport teams are, I think, amazing, especially for track and field and cross country. They've really excelled. And so, it's one of the best programs I think in the nation for that. And so I was very lucky to have that option.
That's awesome. And how nice that, I know, embarrassing for the parents to come to the campus, but empowering and safe, right? They
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that you're good. Now, I want to get into some of the questions I've held on to for some time. let me actually share with the audience how we met, because I think that that is a very interesting story. My husband was a runner for UC Davis, and then you guys started cold plunging at a local spa here in town, and he would just rave that he had met you, that he had met the United players, and raving about plunging. And I'm like, y'all are crazy. Like 5:30 a.m. Get up, go, and then get into a very uncomfortable situation. This is a like freezing cold water in a, big over the ground pool with a bunch of guys. But he would come home and he's like bright and like ready to go. And so I gave it a try, and that's how we got to know each other. And this question has kind of been lingering for me, and I'm so happy we got to have this interview today to record this because I want to have this forever. And it's so important for people to also hear the mindset part of what you do. It is everything, right? It's not everything. The physical part is part of the everything too, but they are so intertwined. It's one and the same how your mindset affects your performance and so forth. So I have two broad questions. One, how do you get yourself to the mindset that you need to be at? Two, when you are in a race, well, crossing the line, and you know that you have gained a medal or a gold medal, where are you in that space?
Yeah, they're phenomenal questions. I think the mindset thing for me, I think is my differentiating factor within what we do. There's kind of only so much training that you can get in as a runner because it's a lot of pounding on the knees and the ankles and the hips. Everything is there's only a certain amount you can do. And there's a miler, we kind of balance between the speed element of track and the strength element to get through the round. So what the Olympics is, and the same as the World Championships, is 3 rounds within 5, 6 days. So we're not just running that one 1500. We have to run three separate rounds. And at the Olympics this year, it's technically four. And so having that mindset of being able to go and knowing you're good enough to win and having to race people who the way it works is normally first five past the line when like gets through to the next round. Having the mindset of going after it every day is very difficult in a very high pressure environment. So what I found is like it doesn't matter if you train really hard and you do all the right things, you eat right and you sleep right and all these things, because what you're doing is you're trying to train to race. You're not trying to train to be really good at training. And so what I found was I needed to find small things in my week and in my day that I could do to make sure that my training was getting myself ready to be good at racing. And what that means is being in the right mental space for it. And another part of a big part of the things that you guys won't see from behind the scenes is we get held in what's called a call room. Um, for anywhere between 40 to about 70 minutes before the race, we'll all sit in a small room together. And so normally that's when we would warm up. And so those are
Wow.
when the emotions come in and all these things. And so what happened is before the Olympics, I went to a couple of world championships, and one was in Doha and one was in London. And this call room was a new concept for me. So call room, and then we walk out onto the start line. And that walk is very difficult. It's very like you've got to convince yourself you're in the right space. You know, for us, like, and for me this year, my whole career is probably going to be defined on 3.5 minutes. And that's 12, 15 years of work. It's a lot of pressures. I was like trying to find something, and I ended up emailing Jose, who's the head of this plunging that we do, and kind of explained all this to him, and he had explained the plunging and stuff like that. And so I did it a couple of times, and the first time I did it was with Jose and Blavi, your husband, and both as wild and amazing and crazy, and like it was just the wildest experience. And so what I was looking for is to create those emotions that I find in the call room and walking to the start line. I wanted to practice those because the nerves and the uncertainty and anything that you do comes from not being in that position, like not practicing enough. If you do something every day, you don't get nervous about doing it. But that is a specific thing that happens that I don't ever practice. And so what ended up happening with this plunge is we do our breathing and we walk down and we get in the water. And between the breathing and the water, and you probably won't realize this yet, but you might realize this now. I'll be the last normally to come out in between the breathing and getting in the water because I feel like it's the same as sitting in the call room and then walking down to the race start line. So that's what I'm practicing. That's why I'm there. That's the majority of the reason. That I think there's lots of medical benefits of being there, but that's the reason I'm there, is to get my mindset and go through those emotions of what it's like, of like, this is going to be really hard. And I do this every week, but I know as soon as I get in the water, it's a lot easier than my mind is allowing me to think it is. Like, I can do this. Like, I do this every week. I can get in the cold water, and it's going to be tough and it's going to be like really hard, but I'm going to get through it. And so that walk is something that I was like, this is the same emotions I feel when I walked an Olympic Games start line. This is the same as emotions as Olympic trial start line. Let's practice this. Let's really dive deep into it. So that was my big starting point with the plunge, of like, I'm now able to practice something that no one in the world is practicing. And it
Mhm.
allows me to just have an insight into being able to change the storyline in my head of like, instead of being nervous and overthinking it and thinking it's going to be really hard, because I do this all the time, I know the outcome is going to be positive because I'm going to be in the right mindset, especially if the work is done. So that's kind of how I differentiate myself from my competition a little bit with the mindset stuff. And it allows me to be very present in what I'm doing and not worry about if the race goes well or badly, or within the race if I fall or my shoelace comes untied. Like, I don't worry about those things. I just worry about being in the moment. And that's kind of what the plungers allowed me to have, and what Jose's kind of taught me a lot, and Lovie and everyone there. Because I think what's great about that experience is just everyone being vulnerable in some things that are going on in their life as well. And it gives a lot of perspective in what's going on in your own life. But that's a big thing that I work on in the plunge. And I think that's kind of hopefully answered your question a little bit, but that's a big
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
of why, yeah, why I do that too.
But thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. I had no
I know
idea.
I don't really
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it a
yeah,
lot when I'm there. Everyone
yeah.
leaves the room really quickly, and I'm just standing
Yeah.
there like, this is
I know, and we all share similar feelings before we hit that cold water. And some mornings we have to break the ice, and it's
yeah.
like 7 inches thick. And you're like, what am I doing? I love it when it's the three of you trying to break that ice. That's special.
I know.
But it really is the human experience, right? The emotions, the difficult situations that we encounter. I feel that you encounter your difficulties and challenges in more of a structured way, and the way you conceptualize them is more structured. So we all have those feelings, but I'm not extrapolating that into my regular life, though I'm like, okay, I did this. Badass. Like, I can do anything today. That's part of it. And also the focus that comes with it, because you produce noradrenaline and epinephrine after the cold is quite interesting. And you get tired too afterwards, of course. So other than, let's say, that practice, are there any particular routines that you have for your mindset to get yourself there?
Yeah, I think structure is the big thing, and I think that's what every human is really looking for, is just structure, because it allows you to feel like you've had the day that you want to have. And for us, like, technically, my only job I have to do, the only job I'm paid to do, is run anywhere between an hour and 2 hours a day. We'll have gym and stuff like that, but it's not a long time. But the hard part about our job is we're never that far away from having to do that every day. So even if we take time off, it's like we'll take 10 days off of running. That's pretty much all we're getting all year. And so every weekend, every day, any place in the world, we're going to be running. And so having the structure of getting the most out of your day allows us to have the right mindset, because the majority of feeling fit and feeling ready to go is just feeling structured and achieving the goals along the way. I'm very goal orientated when it comes to taking steps to achieve something. So my Olympic final is on August 6th, and the things I do today aren't exactly going to be reflected on how that day is going to go, but it's going to reflect on how that next goal is going to be. And so I'm very short term with my goals to allow me to not get overwhelmed by the big goal way in the future. So I'm like, okay, I need to run. I've got a race next week in New York that I want to run really fast in the 2 mile. And then from there, I might want to go to World Indoors, which is in my home country in Scotland. And then from there, I want to run this race, and then there. And then so it allows me to structure my day. So yeah, my big thing is structure. So bedtime structure, wake time structure, and staying away from my phone structure as much as possible and just getting ready to run. And I think if I have those down, I'm able to have the mindset to be like, I achieved everything that I needed to achieve today, and there's nothing else to achieve. I'm not worried about what anyone else is doing because being the best in the world is very difficult because you can't really worry about what anyone else is doing because then you have to worry about everyone else. What you need to worry about is yourself. And if you can get slightly better, then you're still probably going to be one of the best, if not still the best. So that's what I'm trying to structure my days around now is focusing on my weaknesses and my strengths and not worrying about what anyone else is doing. It's very difficult. It's much easier said than done, but I think just staying away from the post-race interviews and some of the chat online and things like that allows me to stay focused on, am I getting better right now? And the answer is normally yes, because I've learned from the experiences throughout the years. So I've been to 4 World Championships and 1 Olympic Games thus far, and I've learned so much along the way. And I think where I am now is a very settled place where I can trust my coaching staff, I can trust my team of people that help me on a daily basis, and then it means I can trust myself. So it's a very step by step thing for me. And it's just like getting these small wins throughout the day allows me to be mentally relaxed and good to go when it comes to game time, really.
Beautiful. There's a quote that says, discipline gives us freedom. And that's what you're
Wonderful.
describing. Yeah, yeah. Um, it must be very interesting for the coaches and like the feedback that you get. I think that's a really interesting area of exploration. If you want to share something about that, that'd be great.
About the coaching staff,
Yeah, the coaching stuff, like what is it that obviously there's star team to have you and also empower you to be the best. Um, and so what characters, what traits do you see in coaches who have helped you most?
yeah, I think it's a great question. You gotta. I have a very different outlook than my coaching staff, and I think it allows us to argue and balance. And it means that we're making the right decisions. If I had the same mindset as my coach, I think we would agree too much and probably make the same mistakes. But it allows us to talk through some stuff where I'm like, I'm very aggressive in the way I like to run. He's very conservative in the way he wants me to run in terms of racing. And so there's normally this finite where there's like, okay, and we have an assistant coach where he's kind of more on my side, but there's a bit of balance between me and Danny. So what happens is like I'll be like, I want to front run this race, and Danny's like, I think you should sit at the back, and Julian's like, well, why don't we sit in third? And we're like, yes, that's probably a better idea. So I love the element of being able to not argue, but like discuss. I hate having to be like, I think I want to do this, and they'll be like, yeah. Or I'll be like, hey, what should I do? And he says, yeah, like, this is what you should do. And I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't love the agreeable side of things. I think I need to be challenged a lot because I'm a dreamer. Like I have to be. Like I want to win everything that's possible of winning. But I think there's the human body is limited in what it can achieve. And, you know, I'm pushing it to its boundaries. And so we've got to be smart in the way that we attack things. I think having that as a coaching staff, trust is huge. I tell Danny, I'm like, it's the same as what I tell all my staff. It's like, if you do your job properly, I can do my job properly. And that's all I'm asking for. It's like, I need you to do your job properly. I need you to be honest with me if you're not, or if things are going a little bit all over the place, and we can sort it. And then having an honest, hardworking team of people, it's going to be hard to go wrong. And I've had staff members that haven't kind of held up to those standards, and I had to let them go. But there's something about having a coach that doesn't always agree with you that I think just gives you the fire of like, I 100% agree with his training. I think he's one of the best coaches in the world. But sometimes I don't agree with some of his race tactics. And so we're like this all the time. And I think that's what that balance really gives us amazing performances because it allows me to stand on the start line, have full faith in what we're doing, and almost die on the hill of like, this is what I know is right. And so I think this is going to go extremely well. So I think everyone works differently, especially in our team. Like a lot of people are very different, but in the way that I work, I love the challenge of like, yeah, this really talk this through, or else we might make some mistakes. And I'm just someone that doesn't like to make the same mistake twice as well. And so we've got to learn from good races and bad races. So it does take years to get there. I've been with Danny for 6 years, so it's taken some time. But yeah, we've got it down now, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's in that friction, it's when the rubber meets the road that you can propel forward. And that's what you're describing. That's so cool. I'm very curious when you're in a race. And you have your sunglasses on because you're so bright. I actually need to ask that question. Why the sunglasses?
So back in 2022, I signed a deal with Oakley, and I think I've learned more and more about this company since I signed with them in 2022. I think they're one of the coolest companies that athletes work with. I think they're so creative and they're amazing with product and they're amazing with their athletes in the way they've made me my custom pair this year. That helped me out with understanding their company dynamics and how they work. And they're just so creative. And I love that part of it. And I also love just having a differentiating factor on race day where I'm always in the last couple of years been defined as someone that or the guy that's wearing the glasses or whatever. But I love representing brands that I believe in, and it's
Mhm.
definitely a brand that I believe in. And over time, it's allowed me to kind of learn what it's like to race with glasses, and I do it indoors as well, just to more make a statement. But there, it doesn't make
I
any
love it.
darker. I'm going to New York next week, and I'll be wearing the sunglasses in there, and it's just a bit of fun. I think it's representing a brand that I believe in and that I think is doing really good work.
That's awesome. What do you like about them?
So I think what it allows me to do, especially in these call rooms, like I was talking about earlier, like I can look anywhere and no one knows where I'm looking. And it means that I can kind
Mhm.
of stay relaxed. I almost feel like I'm like away from this area and just kind of in my own world. And I can kind of focus on myself and also look around and see what's going on without people realizing I'm just kind of people watching, learning from
Beautiful.
people's things. When I had them, I had some early memories of wearing the wrong glasses on the wrong days. Like we race kind of late sometimes, and I think it was Zurich in 2022, maybe. I wore their dark sunglasses, and it was dark. It was really dark that night, and I was like, I can hardly see. I was like, okay, we'll make that mistake once. We won't make that again. Over time, you learn the product, and you start to fall in love. And I think running is moving towards it as well, and I think it definitely has a space that new technology. And yeah, it's just fun to have that differentiate.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine when you're going that fast if it's moving. Obviously, you have to practice with it to be able to be okay with it on race day. But I've always wondered about that. I'm like, it looks great. So let me tell you,
Feel good
it's
enough. Feel good.
fun. You look cool. You look
Yeah.
like you feel good. You're like, yes, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
And so when you are at that finish line, where are you mentally?
It's a weird one. That's a really weird question because the answer to this question, my normal answer is you practice everything up until the finish line. And so then you're just in this whole new, like you don't practice celebrating, like it's not something that you practice doing. But the World Championships, I had a team of people who worked on my spikes and worked on the apparel and the PR and marketing of Brooks and Oakley, and my parents, my family are all there. And so sharing that moment of like the couple minutes after the race and just sharing that moment with them is so special because we sacrifice constantly. Like you were saying, my parents live in Scotland, my whole family lives in Scotland. I have two young nephews that are growing up in Scotland. My fiance is currently in Florida. I don't get to see her all that often. And it's like I take this time and I know and they all know that I'm in a position where I'm working hard and I need to be here for my job and they need to be there. And there's just this really beautiful thing where it's like we're so focused on ourselves where we're trying to be really high achievers, the same way Lamar's trying to be an extremely high achiever, being a dermatologist. And we have that understanding of like, that's just where we need to be right now. And if that means we're not physically in the same place, that's going to be the way it goes. But it allows us to connect through that of just being able to push the boundaries. And so sharing these moments where it's like, I know we haven't seen each other in 6 months and that's a huge sacrifice. But this is what I was doing to create this moment. And this moment is life changing for myself, for her, for my whole family, for the brand of Brooks, for all these things. So that's where the respect I think comes from. But it's extremely hard. And so those are the moments that I'm looking for. Like at this point, I've achieved everything that I wanted to achieve when I was coming into the sport. Now I'm getting a little bit greedy, they could say. I've taken 15 years or so to get to this position. So now it's like, let's go and earn for those 15 years. Let's go and earn those moments back for the people that have sacrificed for me and create these lifelong amazing memories that they deserve as well as myself. So yeah, mentally, it's the first one's always an amazing like moment. The second one's normally a relief. I did it in the NCAA. The first one was like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing. I won NCAA indoors in 2017. And it was the best moment of my life up until that moment. And then the year after I won again, it was the biggest relief I've ever had. I'm like, thank goodness I didn't lose. it's the different mindset of like, I've won worlds now and I can't physically lose. I don't want to lose again. I have this title. I'm the best in the world. I don't want to lose it. And so it changes a little bit where it's like you're going for everything, and now the target's on your back, and you're like, let's just not lose. Let's really just stick to that. So it is slightly different. I think the Olympics is going to feel slightly different this time around, but I couldn't ask for a better position going in. I'm very excited for the Olympics this year. I think it's going to be an amazing event, and I'm not an American. I'm a Team GB guy, so I'll be looking to
Yeah, that's right.
out the medal count, and try and see if we can be at least within 30 medals of the US this year. That's the goal.
No, that's incredible. That's incredible. I remember watching you race at the 2020 Olympics, Japan, right? And you coming up on the third run, and you took off, and Flavia and I are like,
So,
what is that moment for you? Like, what goes on? Is there a mantra? Is there nothing? Is there no thought in that moment? Or is it just that energy that's coming through you that you've worked so hard to move through you, that is moving you, and is like you're taking that extra, like, faster stride? What is that moment like?
I mean, it's a phenomenal question because, and it's a question that I think you're asking because you've been in those moments, you're a high achiever, you feel like you're like, what do you do in that situation? But it's the same thing you do every day. So for me, like what I found was I needed to simplify my head. I needed to simplify my mind, and mantras are the best way to do that. And when you're in a high stress environment, the worst thing you can do is let your mind wander. It can wander normally into negative things. It's like, oh, my knee's feeling a little bit, oh, like you're just creating excuses for if things don't go the way you want them to go. And you've just got to be open. And I think something that Jose is really good at is making you explore the curiosity of why you're feeling in different ways. And so for me, I simplify it down to probably 2 or 3 words. Mantra for me is normally 2 or 3 words, and that's used from when I arrive in the car room to when I cross the finish line, because it allows me to, when I feel like my mind's wandering, I bring it back to the simple stuff. And so that's like a moment in training, or if it's a sacrifice that I made in the coming weeks, or if it's an outcome that I'm focused on, and I'll always bring it back down to this really small like part. And so when I'm in those moments with 250 go, I pass into third place, or pass actually I was passed into third place with 100 meters to go. My big thing was don't lose the medal to go for a bigger one, because I nearly made the mistake and nearly got fourth. And I knew it going in. I'd had the conversations before, like sometimes you've just got to like be slightly conservative, especially for your first medal. You've got to be slightly on the conservative side to hold on to it. And that was my big thing, is take a deep breath. You've been here a million times. But it's a very simple mindset. And then I bring it back down to the mantra if I'm wandering a little bit. But they're hard. And that whole
Mm.
competition was hard because there was no one there. It was a silent stadium. And
Oh
it
man.
almost felt like no one was watching. It was crazy. And we're used to having, a good sized stadium, at least 35-ish thousand people cheering and going crazy, but it was maybe 200 people in that stadium. And it was raw. It was really raw. And, yeah, it was just focusing on that moment. And it's the same thing when you get in the ice. You're not thinking about what you're having for dinner that week. You're not thinking about, you're not thinking about your phone. You're not thinking about other people's feelings. You're like, this is really hard, and I'm focusing on making sure I can stay in here for at least 3 minutes. And that's what it is. It's the same thing. It's like when I'm racing, it's like this is really hard, and I've made these decisions beforehand, and I'm just going to focus on making the right ones. And the big thing that Jose and I worked on going into those games, because I started working with them at the start of 2021, was being like water, being fluid, being able to make decisions as quickly as possible. Like he was saying, when the water goes down the stream and it hits a rock, it just goes round the rock. It finds whatever possible way it was to go round the rock, and it doesn't spend any time to find those gaps. It just finds them. And so for us, it's like we make those decisions beforehand. I know what opportunities are going to come up, and I've already made those decisions. So it's like for me, I was in fourth with 200 meters to go. The first and second were too far ahead, and I didn't have enough energy left. So I was like, okay, I'll take a deep breath. I'll stay in lane one, and I'll make my move with 100 to go. And those were the decisions, and it was made in less than half a second. And yeah, if your mind is busy and it takes longer, it's just going to waste energy and time. And yeah, I love being in those positions. It's a very fun part of our sport, but it's the 1% of the time is going after those medals and getting the fun stuff. The other 99% of the time is is working on being able to make those decisions and being in those positions. It's hard, but I think it's so rewarding, being able to work after something for so long and then being able to achieve it. And I think it's
Oof.
really nice to be on this side of things.
Incredible, incredible. And we were cheering for you. I didn't know that part of the story where it was so silent. It's crazy. What a crazy few years we had with COVID. But yeah, we were cheering hard for you over here, that's for sure.
I love it. Yeah, I made so many amazing friends like through that 2021 year and season of just other people who were dealing with stuff and other people in high pressure environments and other sports people and other people that were just wanting to push themselves a little bit. And I think being surrounded by like-minded people and listening to the way that they deal with any problems or on a day-to-day or routines, I think is just so important. And it's so, I just love being around that community because it just makes me challenge myself. And that's what I'm looking to do as well, is to be the best person I can be for my fiance and for my family and for my being able to be the right person for my sport. And I think being able to challenge yourself is important to stay honest with pushing the boundaries, really.
And engaging with life. Because if you're not challenging yourself, you're oftentimes dissociated sometimes, somewhat. Yeah, yeah. What else was I gonna ask you? Man, I think you answered all kinds of questions. I'm so
Let's go off on the
excited.
rants.
I love the rant. I love the rant. That's where the meat is. That's where the flow is. How can we support you?
It's a great question. I think just continuing to be yourselves, and for me, like I was saying, the big reason I go is a community. I think without that, like I have a cold plunge here at the house. I only do it normally on Saturdays because I can't make Friday plunge, but I'll go Wednesday every time if training permits. But for me, I think the big thing is just being able to listen to the way people deal with what comes up in their life. And I think everyone selfishly puts that in their own perspective in some way. Like I think that's the way humans are. They're like, how does that relate to me? And I think that's what I do is I don't love chatting about running there because I think it's my release of normally it's like if I'm to put my 2 cents in somewhere, I'll always relate it to running because that's kind of what I do. But I love just listening to other people and listening to the way that they deal with anything that comes up mentally, physically, and the way that the conversation is always so positive, even when it's some of the worst stuff that's coming up. And I think just being yourselves is such a perfect group of people just to listen to and respect. And I think the conversations go the right way. And especially when Bove or Jose have something to do with it, they're always steering the conversation into something that's super relevant for everyone. But I do love that anonymous running side of me that comes out in those plunges where I'm not explaining training camp to people or like training like specifics because that's not what I want to do there. I want to like listen to other people's like stories and what comes up in their
Yeah.
week. So I think a big thing of that was always everyone's there for the right reasons. And I think that's what I love about it. It's like when you have that, if you have that plunge at 10 a.m. versus at 6 a.m., I think it's a whole different group of people. And I think that
Totally.
6 a.m. group is so special. And
So
because
special.
that's what it takes. Like if I said to my teammates, hey, we got this plunge at 10 a.m., they'd probably all be there. But at 6 a.m., no one's there. And so I
That's
just
right.
love that side of it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And the power of community, right? It's so true. You hit it on the head. It's very powerful, and the people that you get to meet in the plunge are, and some come and go,
Yeah.
right? And then some are just veterans that have stuck around for years, and it's very special. It's very
Yeah.
special.
I
Yeah.
think it humbles you so much as well. It just makes you so human in those moments where you are getting in the cold and you're like, wow, how am I not better at this yet? I've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years. I'm like, I think last Wednesday, not yesterday, but the week before, was probably one of my worst performances, if you're going to throw it like that. And I think what's amazing of what we've cultivated there is like, it's not about time. We're not going to be like, hey, you've only been for this long. You need to do this. There's no competition element. But internally, I know why I felt like that. It's because I was almost breezing through it. I was like, oh, there's no ice today. I'm a bit tired. I've been working a bit hard. I almost underthought it. I got in the water and I was like, no, this is the most humbling experience ever. I'm not ready for this. And I think that's what makes me feel ready for races too, is when I'm ready to go in and have the right mindset going in. Because if you have the right mindset, it's not that difficult. And but just going in and you're a little bit like this, because I'm normally one of the last in, and so I'm looking at you guys. You're already down to the neck, and I'm like, a challenge ahead of me here.
And it really is the mindset. The first time I went in was the day before. I sat and meditated and visualized the whole thing. And
Yes.
I imagined myself as a teenager in Iran. We had this pool that had well water, and it was freezing cold, of course, in the initial stages. And I would go and do 100 laps, and I would be blue. I would, I was like, no, I'm gonna have fun. Like people are no fun. It was just me. There was
Wow.
nobody else, right? No siblings, none of my cousins, nobody would come in. And it took me back to that moment. I was like, have I ever done this in my life before? And sure enough, yes, I have. And why can't I bring that feeling as a child in it with that curiosity and fun? Like, it's going to be so crazy, but I'm going to
Yeah.
do it. And so I did that the day before, and it helped me so much get in. And so every time we go, that's where I go. That's why it's easy for me to just like step in and like get into up to my neck. And these are hard to like stay there though. Oh, I took 3 breaths. Are we done?
It is. It's so hard. It's like resetting you each week, and I can tell how comfortable or uncomfortable I am when doing it. Like for me, this year's changed a lot. I have a lot more people working for me. I I was able to bring on some operation people and social media people, and I have a chef and all these things, and life is easy. I'm good at running. I don't need to push boundaries. But then it's like every week I'm like, yeah, you got softer this week. You're too soft right now. And yeah, that's I love that part of it because I think it allows me to mentally check in. I've been like, I'm still in the grind of my sport. I've not made it in any way. It doesn't make my life any easier with the position I'm in. I still need to race and try and push my records and some of the fastest positions. So it's very nice to reset up being like, yep, you're right here, right now, and you need to be ready to go. And so it's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on that note, Josh, it was so wonderful having you on and having a conversation. And because we usually don't get this chance, right? To really get into things, and we both lead busy lives. And so thank you so much for dedicating this time for this conversation. It is wonderful to hear your challenges and your just internal stuff. That's what makes each person so interesting. There's a universe within each of us. And with communication, we can share that. And with the podcast, we can share it with more people. And is there a way the audience can find you or reach you or support you in a way?
Yeah, I think my Instagram is probably the best way to kind of follow my journey and my progress and my experiences as a professional athlete. And I think that's probably the best way to yeah, follow my journey. But I also want to say I appreciate you, and I appreciate how thoughtful those questions are and the way that our worlds collide in having a busy life, trying to push the boundaries of what we're doing and not kind of settling for just that mundane surface level structure of life. And um, I love sitting on here and having questions that are not just, hey, how's training going? Like I really love that side of these podcasts. So I appreciate you and the time that you put
Thank
into
you.
to learn that stuff. So thank
Thank you so much. Some days I'm like, God, life is too hard.
you.
Why?
I
Why am I
know.
doing this to myself? It's worth it.
You got to push yourself. It's a great way of learning.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. And we will make sure that your Instagram handle is in the show notes for
Love it.
people to follow you. And sending you all the love, Josh, and hope to see you soon in the plunge.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll see you.